Now, let me just give a quick introduction before I go into the actual industry first. Uh, you'll find that where we're going with the whole Gig Institute is to literally help people to develop that. So we say of all your three businesses, we assume when you come into Gig, you already got one business or a job, and that's great. Um, and in time to come, within the conducive environment of Gig, you'll develop probably many ideas for many businesses. So we don't restrict you to just one. But we're developing the Gig Institute as a real practical way and a practical tool to teach you all aspects of business. Now, Gig is not just reliant on one component. So without the bank, Gig can still exist, although the bank makes it much easier and gives us a lot of credibility. We have recently become aligned with NeoLife, which is one of the leading entities in the field of nutrition. And we're proud of them, but at the same time, that doesn't define Gig. And in time to come, we will also expose you to one of our insurance partners, Gig Wealth, that will bring all sorts of insurance tools to the table. But all of these are supplementary components. Now, what I'm proud of, if I think of Gig, the bank, we're definitely not the biggest bank out there. Of all the CFIs, we are certainly one of the CFIs that has a national license, but there are other CFIs that are much bigger than us in terms of membership and money. But I tell you what, I'm so proud of Gig CFI being an industry first. So we're an industry first in the way that we can give interest-free loans. And with all the other partners that we will partner with, there would be something that make them special and unique in the industry. So what I'm now sharing with you is freely available for the wealth coaches. But if you're not yet a wealth coach, I want to run quickly through some of the industry first that you may not be aware of. So NeoLife exists over for the last 60 years. And what I specifically enjoy being associated with them is powerful and unique products. It's not to say other people don't have, in some of the instances, similar products, but there are certainly very unique products that no entity has. World-class clinical research, and everything I'm saying here tonight is backed up, and you can go and Google it and do your own due diligence and research. And then over the years, I was fortunate to actually visit their factories and manufacturing facilities overseas and meet some of these world-leading scientists in the institutions. So just to give you a quick rundown, for the last 60 years, they started in 1958. So for the next 10 years, they were the first to come up with a whole food nutritional supplement. We already did a session on that, 3 grain concentrates, whole lipids and sterols to support optimal cellular nutrition. And still to today, nobody else, although the information on this is freely available, others haven't copied this. So NeoLife is still the first one to, or the only one to bring that out. They were the first ones to pioneer what we call protein technology. Now, protein is very important, and a while back we did a session on amino acids. Amino acids sometimes is not taken up readily in the body, specifically some of the plant proteins. And NeoLife has pioneered a way to build the protein or extract the protein in a way that, first of all, is the only one that gives you all 22 amino acids involved in the human nutrition, and also a way that guards the protein so that it can release over a period of time and give you the maximum protection. Then, for those of you who have kids, my kids grew up with this. It's also available in a little sweet form. But for people who can't swallow tablets, Liquivite is then the equivalent of tablets in terms of the Formula 4 message. And then years ago, in the 70s, they became the first to provide biodegradable, earth-friendly products, which is now part of their Golden Home Care range. And I believe some of you have already tried it. And in the end, some of you, if you have a testimony, you are welcome to share that. Then in the next 10 years, they started to go into the science more fully, and they opened up their own fully controlled state-of-the-art research and manufacturing facilities. And then out of that came the first Nuplex concentrate. So they found out when the whole world was on making synthetic vitamin C, that in itself it's useless if it's not in the whole bioflavonoid complex that comes out of citrus fruits. And then a product that I'm personally very happy that we do have it in our range is the lipotropic adjunct. And they found out of totally natural food, but a product which I call lipotropic factors that help to clean up arteries and prevent the onset of heart attacks. And then I had the privilege of meeting this gentleman on several occasions. He's now passed on, but he was a world-renowned cancer researcher. He was the person who discovered how to he basically found the chemotherapy route for cancer. But in that, he learned about heavy metals and also their toxic effects. One of the good things he did in the process, he developed out of amino acids how to chelate calcium. Last week we spoke on that very briefly. So amino acids, what your body like, and it helped to increase the absorption ratio 6 times compared to what's currently available on the market. And then because he was so involved in the chemotherapy, his concern was it's effective to bring all those heavy metal toxins into your body to kill the cancers, but then once it has done its job, how do you now get it out? And the sad part is the medical industry have moved on to the chemotherapy side of things, but they've not also added what Dr. Arthur first developed, and that's the beta guard, which is then a natural supplement that binds with these heavy metal toxins and make them water soluble and get it out of your system so they can't do further damage. And then during that era, they also then came up with the first NeoLife Scientific Advisory Board. And what that basically means, they went into the industry and from various universities around the world, based on peer review, if there was someone who is now the new star on the horizon with knowledge on antioxidants or whatever the case may be, then that person is invited to come and serve on the NeoLife Scientific Advisory Board, and they would be given almost a free mandate to research anything of their liking. But then NeoLife just had the benefit of using their research as it goes on. And then the scientists had absolute veto right. If they didn't like the quality of a product, they could stop any further production processes. And it was the first entity that I know of that had that kind of arrangement. Then in the next 10 years, they developed what they call threshold control technology. And that's how to control the release. And we talked about that last week, sustained release. And it was also a lot to do with how to bring amino acids into the process, similar to chelation, so that it can release slowly over time. I've seen it personally. I visited the factories many years ago, and they developed an artificial stomach so that when they experimented with new solutions, they can literally see at what stage in the whole digestive process does the product then breaks down and start becoming available, whether it's in the stomach or the intestines. What an interesting apparatus. And then targeted delivery technology, like for instance, when doctors give you antibiotics, those antibiotics work in the intestines, some in the small, some in the large intestines. But how do you get, if you now have to replace good probiotics, how do you get it through the gastric acid juices of the stomach and get it through there into the intestines? And that's some of the science they put behind it that's now also used by many other people today. And then they continued, and that's why we're so enthusiastic about 3N. It doesn't matter what you eat. The little bit that you eat will not absorb as well if you don't do it in the presence of 3N. So 3N improves this by many percentages. Then in the next 10 years, they came out with carotenoid complex. It was the first study on natural fruits and vegetables. And it was the colorant, the red, the green, the yellows of the fruits and the vegetables that they found are extremely strong antioxidants. And in the oil-soluble part was then referred to as carotenoid complex. And it became so prominent that the United States Department of Agricultural then bought some of the product just to do further studies. And they found in an independent study that within 20 days, people had a natural increase in what do you call it, improvement in their, what's the word I'm now looking for? Immunity. So the immunity improved within 20 days by 37%. And especially in a time when we are so subject to so many other illnesses and people who suffer from IV, they eventually die from the immunity part of the problem, and they can improve this by the carotenoid complex. And then the flavonoid complex was also from fruit and vegetables, but it's then the water-soluble part that was also made available. And then cruciferous plus, I've got lots of interesting stories on this. It's basically they discovered out of things like cabbage, a compound which are now referred to as cruciferous, and the cruciferous talks about when these plants make a flower, it is in the form of a cross. But there's an extract from these plants that are highly potent to turn cancerous cells back into healthy cells. So with breast tissue for women and prostate tissue for men, highly effective. And we had some very good testimonies on that, which we can talk about later. And then similar to targeted delivery, they then had this gel guard technology. And then for kids, they already had Vita Squares, which is like a multivitamin, but then they took the combination of the carotenoids, fruits and vegetables, because nowadays in the modern world, the kids love sweets, but they don't eat their fruits and vegetables. And now it's in the form of a nice little sweet. And if you don't believe me, come and ask my grandkids. They thrive on it. Then in the 1998 to 2007, they then brought out further studies on glycemic response control. So a lot of people who suffer from weight problems is because they don't have their blood sugar levels in the safe zone. So when sugar spikes, your body then secretes insulin to make it store it as fat, and then it drops way back down, and then you feel fatigue, and then you eat more, and that's the typical fat building way without having this glycemic control. And then NeoLife just brought out the products and services that now helps you to keep your blood in the glycemic control zone. And then they did further studies on omega-3, and omega-3 now is the only one in the market that delivers all 8 omega-3 fatty acids involved in human nutrition, and the highest potency and purity, and it's a high lowering of the inflammatory index of people. And then 2008 till present, they're busy on looking at our diets even more, and some clinical trial on NeoLife shakes, and I know some of you are using it and can testify on that. Then these are some of the products that I have not yet seen in South Africa. So it has to do with once enough people have a demand for it, it is then brought into a market, but it's currently available in the USA. So the cofactor Q10 that works on cellular level, they've got a botanic balance product, and they've got a magnesium complex product. So this is just a quick introduction to show that we can feel relaxed and at ease that when we building our gig families, and especially as wealth coaches or legacy coaches, when we start bringing in people, that we won't be embarrassed by products that are just built on hype and not science and the substance behind it. So any questions maybe let me just close with this. So we talked about the powerful and unique products, but I think what put me at ease over all these years that I've attended all their seminars and functions is that they actually work everything based on whole foods and derive the nutrition from whole foods and not just the hype of the day. Because at one stage there was even people taking bark from trees and extract some other antioxidant, and since then that disappeared. But it was never tested, it was never part of the human food chain. So at least we now know we're in good and safe hands on